Hi, this is Paula Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. Part of going into topics more deeply means entering into areas that are the unknown. And I've had the great honor and privilege to be able to produce for Dr. Jane Goldberg a series that's been playing on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which she calls Musings from 20th Street, because that's where she lives and that's where she has her day spa, which is a very serious detox day spa. I think it started about 15 years ago when there were only 5 in the city. And it's really about bringing the body into balance. But the body and the mind are intimately connected. And so as I was producing this series, which is really a real reality TV group therapy, I can actually, vouch that none of it is scripted or in any way pre-orchestrated. And it's about using modern psychoanalysis. I also, to be a good producer, went down to the Center for Modern Psychoanalysis and started to listen to some of the lectures that Jane Goldberg's mentor gave, Hyman Spotnitz, in 1979. And as the series progressed, I began to understand when people say, "I don't know," it means that there is a rich opportunity to know. And so a part of going farther down the rabbit hole, I think, is to embark on the unknown, which can be a rather daunting, if not flat out frightening and scary process, simply because we don't know. And yet we've come to the end of our limits in so many other ways that we have to reach out there. So I want to welcome 2 very special guests on this show. One is Dr. Jane Goldberg. Jane, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome, Paula.
And also John Passanante.
Right.
Okay. Now, John is a very important guest to me because I had done a few shows with Gina Calmute, and she was involved with alternative cancer therapies. And it was, quite a journey to have her call me up through YouTube to get to know her, bring her down here, do some shows, and then stay in touch a bit with her as time progressed. But I was very saddened that I got a call from you about how long ago?
About 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
4 or 5 weeks ago. Can you tell me just the story of Gina and why you came today?
Well, I came today because I saw I was curious. I heard she did an interview, and I really didn't see it on the TV, and I recently went onto the internet and I saw it. It was back in February, and it made me very curious, very sad to see her, what she had to say about her trip. She was mostly speaking about her trip to Italy. She was very sick. She had been originally in the Elmhurst Hospital. She didn't feel good. They diagnosed her. They did the tests, biopsy, CAT scan, and they told her she had 6 months to live, that they really weren't a cancer hospital. They could best make her comfortable. So there was, at the time, she wanted to go to another cancer place, and this was going back and forth. What are we going to do? So eventually she wound up in Sloan Kettering. They accepted her over there, and she underwent chemotherapy. 5 rounds she took. Lost her hair, her weight, her appetite, her sense for living. Gina had a very strong sense to want to live. She loved life. She loved her dogs, her cats. And the chemo treatment she was receiving was making her very ill. The original, I sat with the doctor in Sloan when they came into the room, and they told her that she had a very rare form of cancer that 1% of the cancer patients in the United States get, that it would never go into remission, and there's no cure for it, that it's very aggressive. And what they can do to treat it is chemo treatment. And immediately Gina wanted an answer right away, and she wanted to know if there was any kind of special treatment. She had heard of these test treatments, and they said no, the initial treatment will be chemo. So she underwent, since she underwent 5 sessions. It was every 3 weeks up until December the 20th of, not this past December, the one before that. And she wasn't happy. So she wasn't happy at all because it was making her sick, very sick.
She was doing a lot of research on the
She was doing a tremendous amount of research. She was all day, all night. She was asking people. She knew people downtown. She had gone to these baths that were helping her. The Turkish baths were making her feel good. And just the chemo, she was not happy with it. And what the chemo was doing, though, it was shrinking the tumors. And Sloan said that that's what they could do. They said that he hoped that they can shrink the tumors or at least maintain the tumors. And they were shrinking them, but she wasn't satisfied with the illness.
What do you think, Jane?
I go crazy when I hear these stories.
I know.
I'm just so angry.
Let's look at a picture of Gina after this treatment.
So the postulation is that the tumor is the disease, and so all we need to do is get rid of the tumor, and then we're addressing the disease. But in reality, the tumor is a mere manifestation of an underlying biochemical process that we could call a disease. And so to eliminate the tumor doesn't eliminate the cause of the disease process itself. And I hate that all of Western medicine, cancer therapy, is tumor-oriented. It's just...
Now, whenever Jane Goldberg hates something, it's always a very exciting opportunity to delve in to see what is causing all this energy. What do you think is the deepest source of healing? If the tumor, I mean, one theory I know is that the tumor is encapsulating what's very toxic to the body and it's protecting itself.
Right.
Simoncini feels it's
so
a tumor, a fungus.
The tumor is actually a life-saving mechanism.
Right, right. It's the body's way of dealing with that. But how do you address why it happened in the first place? Because even in the theories that talk about it as an infection, one wonders, is somebody just susceptible to become infected? Because when I was watching Spotnets, it seemed as though he wasn't touting anything. He said that as psychoanalysis was sort of a new discovery 50 years ago relative to now, they were doing a lot of scientific studies, like you said, at Kaiser Permanente. They had group therapy sessions. That's why we have this wide shot here, because we've just finished a group therapy session that Jane has had. And it was done, the study was done to see if it mitigated pain,
right,
for pain relief. And they were surprised to find, what did they find, Jane? Say
that the patients who participated in the group therapy lived longer than the patients who did not have group therapy.
So that speaks to something very deep about the healing process on psychoanalysis, or if we can analyze. Or
I think that many times when you give the body an opportunity to heal itself, it can and it will. But the normal cancer therapies that are performed at Sloan Kettering and all the other hospitals, they are so highly toxic that
it doesn't give a person a chance.
It interferes with the body's ability to heal. So why does one person get cancer and another person doesn't? You said that the theory about what a tumor is that it's the body has various defensive maneuvers that
just like the mind, like in this therapy session,
yes,
you're watching people's defensive maneuvers,
right,
trying to get through the defense to
right,
get the real power.
Yeah.
Psychic energy.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
I mean, this lady had a lot of psychic energy. I don't want to
I see
interrupt
from the picture.
If you want, can you come in close on
That's
this?
when she was first taking chemo. That was just a few rounds. She had started to lose her hair. Eventually, she lost all of her hair.
I don't want to interrupt you, Jane. I just wanted to support what you were saying. So can you show the evolution? Then she goes to Sloan.
Well,
give me the next picture.
The picture that you have there is when she started the chemo treatment at Sloan. I don't have pictures of her when she had lost her hair. She didn't want any taken, but she had wig that she was wearing. And eventually, Gina told me, she always spoke to me, that half the battle with this cancer was mental, that she had to be strong, and she had a very strong will to want to beat this. She always told me, I'm going to beat it, I'm going to beat it.
She had a huge strong will, but Jane, could that strong and strength be turned in on herself? Because I was even watching my good friend Molly here at the therapy group, and because I know her in the dynamics, I could see her great intelligence and abilities. You were saying if it was boring you what people were saying, you might be headed for depression. Do you think Gina's strength could have turned it in on herself? Because she said things about, I didn't know you at the time, about her relationship that so deeply impressed me and motivated. I said, Gina, you've got to talk to him. She didn't want to hurt a man she loved. And you said, with your therapy, you launched the therapy group session saying, why do we hate the people we love? And you know the story because you called up to Gina when she just got back to Rome. One of the stories
I think what you're after is to try to come to an understanding of why somebody gets cancer. And I think that it is really, really way too scary for us to think that cancer can hit anybody anytime, that it's completely democratic. And I think most people do live with that fear,
right,
that it will just come for no good reason. It's just going to, you know, it's going to hit me or it's going to hit you.
Jane, and when you said my cancer patients survive, you know, I specialize in cancer patients with their psychoanalysis. At first you think, oh, you know, some of that special. You don't even want to hear the C word. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to deal with it. And I thought, well, is Jane Goldberg like the most arrogant person on the planet to say, my patients survive? You know, what's she talking about? And it took me months. You know, we worked on the documentary together about low-level radiation. And then you said you also pick patients according to not doing these therapies. Can you speak about why your patients survive?
Because I think that when you... So the first thing I want to say is that I don't think cancer is democratic. And I think that there is always a reason why somebody gets cancer. And if I had known Gina, you know, or maybe even we could talk about who she was, and though I will not know her, we might come up with some theories about why cancer struck her. I think that sometimes there's a psychosomatic component, and you're suggesting maybe with Gina there could have been, in terms of her not feeling that she could be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's two people in the control room right now that were in your therapy group that I don't want to suggest for you to have to do something I wouldn't do myself. It's a very scary place to go, to start being authentic with people.
So maybe there was a psychosomatic component, and maybe it was just purely biochemical, and maybe her body was toxic for whatever, you know, sometimes, I mean, she looks pretty young. So sometimes...
That's when she just started the treatments.
But
Gina
how old
was
is she?
58 in that picture.
She's 58?
58.
Oh my God, she looks like she's like 22.
And she had the spirit of a 22-year-old.
Yeah. So
Sure did.
She might have gotten toxic from, you know, bodily toxic. And so why my patients do well is because if you begin with the idea that it's either something that's toxic in the psyche or something that's toxic in the body, if you detoxify, and psychoanalysis is a way of detoxing the psyche, and there are various ways of detoxing the body, then you have eliminated the fertile ground in which cancer can grow.
Would you say detoxification is important before psychoanalysis, or psychoanalysis makes you realize detoxification is important, or psychoanalysis detoxifies?
Yes, the latter.
The latter, okay.
But I think it's not sufficient usually when you're dealing with cancer.
Well, we have the shows we did posted, so my understanding is those shows were done after Sloan Kettering, but before she did something very wonderful in Germany. Not hemlock, what was it?
Mistletoe?
Mistletoe.
Yeah.
Mistletoe and
hemlock would have killed her much faster.
Vitamin infusions, colon cleansing. They called it a holistic type of a treatment
Yeah.
over there.
Well, colon cleansing is a form of detox. So they were trying to detox her.
They did a heat treatment with her
Hypothermia.
hypothermia,
Which is also very detoxing.
and she was starting to come back.
Yeah.
She went 2 trips to Germany. She came back from Italy. Okay, and she wasn't quite convinced what could happen over there. We really didn't speak too much about it, but she found another source.
Simoncini was amazed that she even made it over there after what she'd been through.
I believe
$120,000.
Dr. Simoncini, when he received the, no, it wasn't that expense. The financial was...
No, she went through $120,000 worth of chemotherapy treatment
total
Kettering.
over here, yes.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of time to
Sessions,
go through $120,000.
$7,000,
Each
very
session.
expensive.
Right.
CAT scans, follow-ups.
Right. So she somehow got over to Italy.
She wanted to go to
She meets
Italy.
him at the hospital. He looks at her, he explains to her, unless you get out the root of the fungus, that's what his theory was, that it was a fungus, and that if you attacked it on the outside, it would sort of retreat, kind of like a spider web-ish thing. So then it would start again. And another theory is that it actually eats the dead cells that the radiation destroys, the good human cells at one time. So that's how it grows. So he said unless it could all be taken out, it would keep coming back. So he suggested a very elaborate operation that went in through her belly button and with a vacuum cleaner, and it scared her, and it was very expensive. It was $30,000.
And she had it, or she
No,
didn't?
she didn't have it. And
scared.
you picked up that she didn't have it. Now my concern is I have viewers on YouTube thinking that she did the Simoncini treatment. All she did was take some of the baking soda without aluminum in it. And I have people, they're claiming, all in Southern California are listening to these, they have cancer and they're feeling better just from taking baking soda. And I'm saying, whoa, first of all, I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing medicine. And I think if you're interested in Simoncini, you should read his book.
But they're creating an alkaline environment, and cancer does not grow in an alkaline environment.
So something is happening.
Yeah.
But Simoncini himself wasn't saying that this was the treatment. So I was just a little bit defensive when I talked to you, and you were so angry at Simoncini. And I felt that was unfair because she never actually did his treatment. Now, another time I told Jane that, oh, there was some bad press about Simoncini because somebody died, and Jane said, well, if you're dealing with terminal patients, that often happens because you're taking on these difficult cases. He didn't actually take her case on, but the reason that I so admire that you've had the strength to keep connected with me is after you called me up because you were going through our address book, I took your number down because Molly was there with me, and I didn't, I talked for quite a while to you, but I wanted to talk to you more, and I lost your number. And so then you appeared again on the post. You saw something because someone said, hey, this stuff doesn't work because she died. And I said, yes, it's true, she died. But, and I really regret that I have lost the number of the person she was in a relationship with who she felt, if she told her truth to, would no longer support her. That she would not only hurt your feelings, that you'd go away. And I realized then that I had to take that risk in my own life. And that's why I'm saying I'm not asking you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself, that I didn't feel had results.
I think it's great you were angry at Simoncini.
I was against it from the beginning. I read about him on the internet, and Gina needed one more session at Sloan, okay, with the chemo, and I saw progress. They had reduced her tumors 50 to 60%. I went down and got the oncology report myself that she wanted to send to the man. And I called her on the phone and I said, Gina, this is, you please at least finish the 6th session. It was going to be in January, and then they wanted to put her on what they called maintenance. Okay?
So you feel she didn't finish up Sloan Kettering?
She didn't. She walked away from it.
She walked away from it.
She walked away from it.
She pulled something out of her colon.
She had yes, they did. They did a stent in the colon because the tumors, you have to understand, she had a tumor when she left Sloan. It was 8 centimeters in her uterus. She had lesions on the liver, Okay, there was a, there was.
They couldn't believe she pulled it out. How could she do
She
it?
told me she did that. She said that nobody would ever do something like that. She told me she felt something that was uncomfortable, and it was this, they had put a stent up to a colon. They also had put a stent to her urethra 3 different times, maybe 4. And she told me she was uncomfortable with this and that she was going to do something about it. And I was like, okay, you know. I had gone out and I came home and she told me that she had removed it, almost all of it.
She told me about that.
I said, Gina, you know, you have to go to the hospital. And she, eventually she went there and she spoke to the doctor and she told me that the doctor said, you know, nobody does this. Usually if something happens, you call the doctor or you come in or we send an ambulance to come and get you.
She had this incredible will.
And she had this will, she didn't want that in her, you understand? This was Gina, this was invading her body.
And she also told me that a doctor said off the record, good for you for getting out of here. Because she said, I'm going to Germany.
She said she's going to Germany.
My understanding is when she went to Germany, she sounded better the next time I saw her, and she told me, and you verified, that she actually gained weight. She looked better than when I had her on my show, when she first came back from Rome after she didn't do Simoncini's therapy other than the baking soda, which she too was feeling a lot of benefit with. Then she started working on her diet and things like that.
The reason she didn't follow up with Simoncini, because like Gina was very investigative. She would ask questions. She'd go on the internet. She talked to people, all right? She would go right up to somebody, a doctor, and ask.
Yes.
And she found this treatment. Okay, and somebody mentioned to her about these treatments in Germany. I think at the time the Farrah Fawcett, I'm not sure if that sparked something, but I knew that was going on roughly the same time, and I know she had spoken privately with the doctor over in Sloan, and she mentioned she wanted to take alternate treatment in Germany, and yes, off the record, she told me that the doctor said, good for you.
Because he knows the statistics. You know, if nothing else, even if Simoncini you don't consider, they call him the baking soda doctor, don't even consider him from a therapy point of view. He outlines and explains what the statistics are. The statistics are not good with chemo and radiation. You seem to feel that if she had stayed longer, she would have weathered it through. Now, maybe faith? What do you? I'm stuck.
I don't know if it was to weather it, because from the beginning,
but you
she
feel
had
she
2
didn't
hospitals
finish.
that told her that it's incurable. One gave her a very short time to live. That was unacceptable to Gina. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to live.
Well,
I'm going to survive.
How long did she live after the?
Well, they told her 6 months. Okay, actually, she lived 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. 1.5 years. And when she was in Germany, I was over there. She was there twice, 2 trips. On the second trip, I went over there. The doctors could not believe her will was so strong. They said, this is highly unusual, that she should have passed 2 weeks before I got there. They told me privately. They could not believe it. This is a very rare case.
But Jane, why do you laud him for not liking Simoncini, a therapy that she never did?
I like anybody being angry at anybody, and I think particularly when you've lost somebody that you love, it's a natural response to be angry. And he can tell me he's angry at, Dustin Hoffman.
Right,
I don't care.
And it would be therapeutic.
It's good for him.
Right.
Well, I don't.
But he's not angry. But he's not angry.
It was an unusual journey. What happened? We had really not too many people to talk to about this, and we had doctors. She had doctors telling her things. She had friends telling her things. Gina was going to hypnotherapy.
No, I know, but John, I think Jane's talking about you right now. God bless her, but Gina's gone. But you're alive right now, so I think Jane was going to what's most alive in you, which was your anger. Now I was saying, why does he pick Simoncini and not Sloan Kettering? Or would it make a difference? From a therapist's point of view, it wouldn't make a difference. So how can the love that John felt for Gina, now that she's gone, be best served for his life right now? How would you work with that?
I would just help him to talk and listen.
Well, Gina's memory is very important to me. It's not, I'm just not going to close it. There are things that have to be taken care of. We did for each other. It was killing me to see her in the condition that she was in. When she did sit down with me and talk to me, she said, look, I'm going to try and go to this alternate treatment. It's over in Germany. I read about it. The name of the clinic was called the Huffland Clinic. It was outside of Frankfurt in a small town called Bad Mergentheim. She told me she wanted to go there. I read about it. I was all for it. All for it. She was so happy that this was something that was going to happen. It was something that was financially possible. We could put it together. I went out and got the plane ticket for her, and she went right over there. She was there for 7 weeks.
You paid for it.
Well, we were at work the financial. That's kind of a private issue on the cost, and we did it. It was done. Okay, I helped with that end of it, but most of the thing was she was the patient, and just the way she was when she went over there. I mean, she was going someplace she didn't know. She was going to a foreign country, and so it was a small town. And they said that they probably would be able to help her, okay? And they did help her, because when she came back, she had this summer, she had 3 months of the most wonderful time that I ever saw. Unfortunately, the medicine that they wanted her to be on for the mistletoe, she was having, it was sent DHL to the house from Germany. She was having a hard time finding somebody that would administer to it, administer the medicine to her. And she felt great, and it just kind of went. She wanted to live. She just kind of, she wasn't, they had a very strict diet over there, vegetarian diet.
How did it change? What happened?
What happened was that when she came back from Germany, the first time, she looked great.
Let me show the viewers.
Yeah.
She was full of life.
Come in on this.
Very alive. And then what happened?
And then she couldn't find somebody here to give her the mistletoe infusion.
Injections?
Injections that she needed. She knew of somebody in Pennsylvania, okay, but unfortunately that person had passed away. And finally, when she had an appointment to find somebody, she had somebody that she thought was going to be able to do this. On a Friday, she called me up from the baths she goes to downtown. She said she didn't feel good. And she wound up in New York Presbyterian.
So you mean it hit suddenly?
It hit her like a ton of bricks.
And she had not been taking the mistletoe?
She hadn't been taking the mistletoe. She was trying to find somebody to administer to it.
That must have been driving her crazy.
It was driving her crazy because she had the medicine. She was reaching out. She was calling these people. She couldn't find a doctor.
John, that picture you have on the top,
this
that was prior to this.
No, this was just as the medicine was starting to degenerate from her system. Okay, she unfortunately got very sick. She was in that condition for about 3 months, and then over a period of very short time, her system she got very sick. Cancer tumors started just to eat her up.
I still want to understand. And this picture, when she came back from Germany, she had already been through all the chemo at Sloan.
She had already been through all the chemo at Sloan Kettering. Okay, and the doctors in Germany, when I spoke to them, they were very they were upset of the massive amounts of chemo that they said they couldn't believe it, the amount of chemo that they had put into her system. And it took 2 weeks alone, I believe, she told me, to detoxify her.
That's pretty
food,
amazing.
Diet.
2 weeks to get all that out?
Well, they said it never goes out, but just to get her body stabilized so that they can start the treatment that they had over there. And when she came back, she was full of life. And she had gotten vitamin C infusions, I believe. She found a woman. But the problem she had was that she needed to be on this mistletoe. Okay, that's what basically did what you see there for her. That's what she told me anyway. And unfortunately, she was having a hard time of it. That was in April. She went over 7 weeks. She came home May. So she had June, July, August. Around early September, the condition just because of not having the medicine.
I'm afraid we have to wrap it up. We came suddenly to the end of our 28-minute show. So stay tuned. I'm hoping to have another show, and we're going to bring 2 therapeutic allies on the show, and we'll continue the discussion with John.
Okay, thank you.
For joining me on Paula Gloria.
But what happened was she went...
Is Molly and John in there?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because I wasn't seeing the camera switching.
This is what happened when the medicine
Can
wore
Will
off.
handle it, and you two come on?
To Germany.
Okay.
I tell you though, we did make a mistake. We got so engrossed in what
She
you were
got so
saying
sick, she wound up...
10, 5, 4, 3.
Hi, my name is Paula Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. This is part 2 of the show that has to do with Gina Calmute and alternative cancer therapies. In the last show, Dr. Jane Goldberg was talking to John Peschmenti about the journey, I didn't say it right. Passanant. About the journey that they took with alternative cancer therapies. And I'm also joined by Molly Cheshire and John Gulino, and we're sort of going to repeat the theme of what it means to be a therapeutic ally so that we can overcome the resistances that we have in our life to unfold the psychic energy that we need to live life more fully, both as individuals and in community with other people. So, Molly, do you have any thoughts? You were in the control room. If you don't, just say pass, and I'll ask Jane about the healing.
I had some thoughts, but now they all fled.
Well, my thought is that Gina was very fortunate to have John as her therapeutic ally. That when she said, I want to do Sloan Kettering, he said, we're doing Sloan Kettering. When she said, we're going to Italy, he said, we're going to Italy. When she said, we're going to Germany, we're going to Germany. I mean, this man just was with her every step of the way. And when you take care of somebody who's sick and dying, it fills your life. It is your life. And now he's without her. And the loss is just, it's so profound. And I feel for him.
Thank you. It's not easy. It's not easy. So much was going on for 2 years with this, and now it's not there. She's not there.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult. For 4 months yesterday, she passed away.
Yeah, that's very recent.
Yeah, and October 31st. We thought she thought she wanted to live. That was the only. She wouldn't talk of dying when she was in Germany. Even the doctors told me there would be no talk of dying with Gina, only living. And that's what it was. And now she's not here anymore, and it's not easy. But it's very difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah, death sucks. I mean, let's face it. Let's just say it, right out. Death sucks, right? It sucks when you lose somebody that you love, and you know that whole whatever they call the mortal coil, that separation happens. And I remember when my mother died. I took me about 4 or 5 years of grieving, and that was the same sort of situation. Was trying to keep her alive, and. So I can totally empathize with you, and having met Gina as well, it was a shock to hear that she had passed away. Because to me and Paula, did you ever meet? I don't know.
I never met her.
She was so she had such she has a very dominant spirit going on inside her, and she was very cultured as well, and she had I can tell that she had a very full life.
She was loved by many people also. Very well known in the community.
Yeah, you said she had a nightclub.
She had a nightclub in Astoria.
That's exciting.
She had it for 10 years, yep. Club
was
23.
It live acts or just a bar?
Just a regular bar in the neighborhood. It was kind of, girls were in there. Girls worked it behind the bar. That was her theme. Mm-hmm. And did a business, and it was just like a roller coaster. It had its good moments, and sometimes it struggled. But it always survived till the end.
Okay, so in the last show we talked about It Drives Me Crazy, when the tumor is conceptualized as the disease. The other thing that drives me crazy is when people say, people meaning experts, say that if you want to live, you have a better chance of staying alive, and that if you die, you didn't really want to live.
No, just like I don't understand the logic. If you want to live, you have a better chance to survive.
Yeah, people.
If what? If
yeah,
you
some of the experts say you have to think positive feelings and thoughts, and you have to have a strong will to live, and that's going to you're going to do great. That's going to help you to survive. There's no relationship between the strength of your will to live and whether you live.
So what is it?
Well, I mean, there might be a relationship, but it's not a one-to-one correlation. I mean, we're talking about this woman that had, an incomparable zest for life and love for life and energy and commitment to staying alive, and it wasn't enough. And it's not because she didn't have enough zest for life. It's because there was a malignant process happening in her body that got the better of her.
So in your experience,
So what you have every there are 100 causes of why people have cancer, and there are 100 cures, and you have to know. There has to be a kind of template match of what the cause is and what the cure is, and that's really difficult to figure out. It's just difficult to figure out even the first part of the equation, what's causing it.
But I mean, for example, what I really love about your work is that you say that none of your patients die. I mean, that is a success rate. Even if only half of them died, that would be so much better than most of the...
But she pre-selects them. She won't take patients that do chemo or radiation. Is that true, Jane? Is that
right? But
that's a big deal, because right there you're going against the social consensus. You already have fighters. You have people who are individual thinkers.
Well, you could say that. That's not my
Maybe
thinking
that isn't
about.
The word. What would you say?
Well, no. I mean, I like that idea. It's just not my thinking about why I don't take them, because I know that there are bodies now. The body is toxic from the fact that the cancer is there. They wouldn't have cancer if they weren't seriously toxic, and now they're ever yet more toxic. I mean, this is what John said in the last show, that the place that she went to in Germany that was doing a natural detox had to work so hard to detox her from the chemo, and that they couldn't believe how much chemo she'd had and how toxic she was from the chemo. So
but are your patients kind of pre-selected because they made this choice and they don't have the toxicity in them, or they had the ability to say no to a therapy that everybody does and all the insurance pays for? It's like your participation in this society is based on this belief system.
They're also pre-selected because they're interested in studying themselves in terms of how they think and how they feel. And if they have cancer, there's some notion that they have that either having therapy is going to help with coping with the disease, or in fact, most of my patients, even before they walk in my door, they have an understanding that in some way psychic conflicts contributed to the contraction of the disease. So I'm halfway home with them by the time they come into my office.
But that last half is it's a difficult process,
yes,
isn't
it? There's a long distance to travel.
Can you talk about psychoanalysis, particularly modern? Because to me, modern means cure. Is that right? And did I get something wrong? When I was down there listening to the Spotnet's lectures, they were saying that...
Well, my definition of cure is very specific. It's the ham in the oven, well seasoned and delicious and delectable. A cured ham.
So if a soul is longing for cure and for whatever reason it's not happening, those resistances, that lack of access to the psychic energy, comes out as disease?
One of my patients, she came into my office and she said, this is what I had to get. I had to get cancer. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. My life was untenable. It was not working. Something had to stop me.
And I relate to what you just said. Well, I know it's going to sound silly, but when I had my gallbladder removed in November...
That doesn't sound silly.
It was really the best thing that ever happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realized I had 20 years. I looked back and I said, my God, 20 years I've had this, what I thought was an eating disorder. or was allergic to foods. But what it was just something that was literally dying inside me. And then after I had it removed, it was like everything, all the systems went back up. And I was like, wow, I feel, you know, I get to be the person that I've been trying to be. And it was because of this result. But
You just had to sacrifice an organ.
yeah, I'm just glad it was
I mean,
a more benign organ.
But then you kind of wonder with life, you know, when I went to WAM, Women's Alliance for Medical Marijuana, their 18-year experience was using marijuana in hospice care to help people through the death process. So I felt that what I was proposing, that some of the studies were saying it could actually be used to address what the disease was almost not respectful of what they were doing. But they were starting to take that step because it seems like the society is shifting. And I told Molly that once I was expressing to you my frustration that scientists don't seem to be very scientific sometimes at looking at the studies. And I said, what is the resistance that our culture has to cure? Why is it illegal even to suggest that there's a cure? And as a therapist, I found out, going down to the Center for Modern Psychoanalytic Studies, is that you don't try to necessarily help the patient. You just try to, or I don't know what the word is, accommodate. You try to get rid of the resistance so they can make the connection. Or how would you better say that?
Well, I would agree that you don't actually try to help the patient. It's a specific method that you follow, and the method works, and that is that you help the patient to be able to put all their thoughts and feelings into words. So the process helps the patient. But often, you know, patients can be very resistant to growing and doing this thing that we're calling getting cured, like a ham.
Well, how about, what if the person is going for treatment and they have a problem with the treatment itself, like say the treatment is controversial, or there's been, you know, deaths involved or something.
Excuse me, would the problem, if it's controversial, be that they're not getting support from their community because it's controversial, or because it's a stupid therapy that doesn't really work?
No. What I meant was, how would somebody process this area where they're supposed to have full access to their energy, but yet they're sort of going down the wrong path, so to speak, but they're doing it naively, in a sense?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You have to be more specific.
Do you think Gina was going down?
I was wondering, I wanted to, this really, I suppose, is, with Gina, was there any time that you felt that she was going down the wrong path with Simoncini or any...
Or Sloan Kettering.
Or Sloan Kettering, yeah. Was there...
No, she wanted to be helped. She wanted to be cured. Initially, she was all for the, you know, this is what was offered, chemo, before she knew anything else, okay? She, as a matter of fact, she wanted to go to another center, Cancer Treatment Centers of America, outside Philadelphia, in and it was private. It was very, very expensive. We were trying to work on this financial to get into Sloan. Finally, it worked out, okay? She was all for this treatment. She wanted to get well, okay? And then when she took the chemo, all right, she had heard that it could hurt her. You know, these things are going to happen. She wanted to be well all the time. She didn't want the 4 days after the chemo treatment to be sick, to be nauseous, and then she would be okay for about a week and maybe 2 weeks, and then she would be back 3 weeks later. It was every 3 weeks. She sought alternate methods after that. She started to look into it, okay?
Which is what I understand a lot of people go through cancer. They usually find, they go immediately, once something doesn't work, they start looking for the alternate remedies.
The reason that she went to look to the alternate was because she was on her 5th round of chemo. They said they're going to do the final round in January, and after that we're going to put you on maintenance, and we don't know how long that's going to last. When they said that to her, it was unacceptable. It was completely unacceptable. She hit the roof. She said, I have to do something. I'm going to live. I'm going to beat this. And that's when she very intensely, she uses the internet, okay?
Most of the people that, terminal cancer patients, that get into holistic or alternative therapies do so because they have been told by medical practitioners that there's nothing they can do for them except make them more comfortable. And yes, people have a fierce will to stay alive and are willing to go to great lengths to try to have that be their fate, to stay alive a little longer. And so I think that when they were honest with her and saying essentially, we don't have anything for you, that opened up another world of possibilities for her.
For her, she researched it, she found this.
And she benefited.
She went over to Germany. I mean, you have to understand, Gina had tumors. They didn't know where the primary came from. She was in stage 4. She had tumors that were scattered throughout her body. And she was getting nothing but bad news from people over here, the doctors. And she found a clinic in Germany.
So so you described in the last session that she did get better from the first trip to Germany, and then she couldn't get somebody to inject her with the mistletoe, and then she started deteriorating. She went to the Russian bath. She felt bad, and so you came to get her, and then she was in the hospital for a while. But then you took her back to Germany.
Actually, the baths were helpful for her. It was when she was down there that she got sick.
Right.
She loved to go there.
So she went back to Germany.
She went
in much worse shape than the first trip.
She was in Presbyterian when she called me up that she got sick. I told her to get to the hospital, and she didn't want to have anything to do with Sloan anymore. So she went to Presbyterian. She was in there for about 6 weeks, I believe.
Oh wow.
They had to do 4 whole blood transfusions on her initially over a period of about a week and a half. And they told her that she had about 2 months. They couldn't give her chemo. They said chemo would kill her. They tried to make her comfortable. They were giving her morphine. And she was very insistent. Right there on the phone, she called the doctor in Germany. The Dr. Andreas Demuth is his name. He was a wonderful man. They were on the phone. I was right there. And he wanted to know if they could do surgery on her. They was at the point they couldn't. They told her she had 2 months to survive. That was unacceptable. She said, John, as soon as I get out of here, I'm going back to Germany. She told the doctors in Presbyterian, my doctors in Germany will take care of me. Okay. Unfortunately, when she got back there, for about a week, she was okay. She was walking around. And they took her back because they loved her. They had a tremendous amount of respect for Gina.
Her.
The doctors told me over there was a small group of doctors, 3 or 4 doctors, told me that under any other condition, in Gina's condition, they would never have accepted her back because of the love, the promise that she gave other patients that were in that hospital. That she walked in the room, she told me, oh, everybody has such long faces. Okay? She had a man in a wheelchair that wouldn't get out of the wheelchair. She convinced him to stand up. Okay? People, when I was over there, came into the room, other patients, and told me. There was a man from Sweden that came in. There was a woman from Pakistan that came in. Her father was in the hospital that told me privately outside the room how wonderful Gina was to these people. So you can't tell me that her willing to want to, it had to have been at least half the battle right there.
No,
Okay.
Jane's saying that doesn't make a difference.
Her will to survive.
Isn't that what you were saying, Jane?
There were sad people there that were having cancer treatment. A lot of these people, 6 of the 7 that I knew of, including Gina, passed away. Okay, you know, they couldn't save all, but there was people that did leave. They continued their treatment. You understand? A lot of people, once they go to places like Sloan and they get the chemo or the radiation or the surgery, they're given, I'm sorry, we can't help you anymore. Then they seek an alternate treatment, and they find these places like the clinic in Germany. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late before these people come there. Even the doctors told me, I'm sorry that Gina could not have come to us earlier. We probably would have been able to help her more. I could go down a list of patients that I personally spoke to.
And yet you wanted her to do more chemo. You said she didn't finish it up.
She didn't
That's
finish it up. I had asked her to at least finish because I didn't know of what went on over in Germany.
So you
yet.
learned more later.
Okay,
You
I only
changed your opinion.
knew from the oncology report that
Well,
they
where
had.
do you stand now on chemo?
I have to look at it two different ways, because my uncle had cancer of the lungs from the asbestos, and they gave him, but they got it initially in its infancy, and they gave him chemo. They took out a piece of the lung. He had it in his hip, and he survived, and he's cured. They say he's cured, okay? And they gave him low-dose chemo.
So you're ambivalent.
Low dose.
Low-dose chemo.
What is low-dose chemo?
It's lower than high.
I mean, chemo is supposed to actually be rat poison. It's very cheap.
The doctor in Germany...
The body can withstand a lot of assaults if they're minor assaults, like a removal of a gallbladder.
Could they be like a toxoid thing, like an inoculation?
Yeah.
So that people say, "Whoa, I gotta get real."
It could be like low-level radiation, even.
Right, right. Jane's pointing to this because this is uranium, and I don't need
It's
reading
actually
glasses.
thorium.
Oh, I thought it was uranium.
No.
Well, anyway, it's radioactive.
Yeah.
But
Low dose.
yeah,
They didn't give her very much hope, and she wanted more than that. When she went to Germany and came back the first time, she was wonderful. She was eating again.
they didn't give her much hope, but at the beginning, before she spent $120,000 at Sloan Kettering,
Well,
which
that
the
is the
insurance paid
insurance,
for,
right.
I don't think they indicated. I think they did indicate hope because they cite statistics that never seem to be borne out with anecdotal evidence. Everyone says anecdote is so bad, and yet everyone who goes down this track, you know, it just seems, people just go, ooh.
It was the
They don't-
chemo that was taking the quality of her life away. It was
Yeah.
killing the quality
But
of
you're
her life.
still
There
in-
wasn't any. They
you're
said,
s-
we offer you life, but nobody ever said about the quality.
It was just the
over it.
ambivalence, because we lost.
The quality of treatment. What was the difference between America and Germany? That she had to go to Germany. Why couldn't she get that treatment here?
She couldn't find somebody here. Unfortunately, later on, after she passed away, I had called a woman off of her numbers in California that said that she knew somebody that could administer the mistletoe to her out there.
And
there was someone in Pennsylvania
Oh.
also. She wrote the two names down, and unfortunately, it was too late. It's a struggle
So
when
she
you're
could have
sick.
got the treatment in Pennsylvania, but the person wasn't available?
It's a struggle just to try and find these people.
Mm.
Okay, it's not like you can go to a doctor, like you can go into a hospital or to a doctor and they'll recommend this oncologist or that oncologist. These types of people who do this are few and far between, and to try and find them is very difficult.
Do you
She
think
tried.
if she got it, she would have been okay? I'm not so convinced.
I don't think so. Personally, from being with her and seeing what she was going
and
through and,
yet,
the
and
amount
yet
of tumors.
Jane told me she studied with a lady named Ruth. What was her name? Ruth
Sackman.
Sackman. And Ruth Sackman said it doesn't matter how far the cancer has advanced. But what was it?
The resiliency of the body to recover.
The resiliency of the body to recover. So would analysis access that physical resilience?
Absolutely.
How?
Going back to my patient who said cancer's the best thing that happened to me, her energy was being drained by the life that she was living. So she, as soon as the cancer came and she realized, I'm at a dead end here, you know, this is leading to dying, she completely changed her life.
Would some
And
people,
that energy was freed up for life.
would some people call that prayer?
Well,
What's
I think
the difference
prayer.
between prayer and analysis?
I would say revelation. I mean, that's sort of like, you know, on the road to Damascus, all of a sudden you take a right turn as opposed to the way that you were going, which most people, they're in their rut, they're comfortable with how awful their life is, they may complain about it, but to change, God forbid, you know, that's new scary territory.
Yeah, I think that's really right, Molly.
So even if your life is killing you, why change it?
Unless it's killing you.
Because you don't want to change.
Yeah.
So how come some cancer patients get cancer and they go the route that's expected, and others are like your patient saying it's the best thing that happened to me,
I just
and they
want
recover?
to. I want to refer back to Freud and beyond the repetition compulsion, beyond the pleasure principle. Sorry, is the repetition compulsion, and his point is that what is familiar is the strongest force that we have in the psyche, and it is more appealing to do what's familiar than to do what's pleasurable.
So how do you work with that as an analyst if somebody is in a life-threatening situation when the familiar is killing them?
The way we work is to resolve resistance. The patient has to come to say everything. You have to resolve the resistance to the patient knowing everything, basically knowing. So, you know, when I say you have to know the cause of the cancer, the first question...
Just a second, knowing everything?
Knowing everything.
The patient knows everything? He
The
just
unconscious, on an
he
unconscious
just has
level,
to put what he knows into speech.
Yes, except that then there's an unconscious, and so not everything is able to immediately be put into.
Well, then
you
how
have
do you,
to unravel.
Exactly. So how do you chip away at the unconscious? Maybe that's what I meant by prayer. It seems as though something has to happen that makes that reaching out to say, "I want to know more."
Prayer is an active, you know.
Supplication.
It's a willful act. If cure were as easy as I want to get cured, then we'd all be cured.
That's not prayer to me, though. That's what I'm saying.
That's meditation,
There's
what
some
you're talking
kind
about.
of, well, but I don't. I just, because you said the very last moments with Gina, you had the love, or she expressed something, and I heard another man say this about a woman that died at the end.
Well, Gina was very strong. She did pray a lot. That was one of the things that she had turned around. She was more into prayer. I even said to her, you know, you're going to get better, you're going to get better. Don't worry about it. She said, John, it's in God's hands now. Last few days. But I think that partially she prayed a lot. There was chapels over there that when she was the first time, she told me, oh, this is where you go over here, and this is where I went. And it helped her tremendously. She had connected, and that was also part of it. And just to see her when she did come back that first time, would she have survived? Well, everybody told her that she wasn't going to. I had believed that she maybe had a few more years. But she had 3 months that were wonderful. She lived her life like there was no tomorrow. She loved it. She was in the water at the beach in her bathing suit. She wanted to go to the farm stands. She liked to. We did things.
John, I'm so sorry. We're out of time on this show.
Okay,
sorry. My last
But
request.
I think these shows have been a tribute to Gina and the spirit
Thank you.
that she brought to her life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Do you think we should invite John to the therapy group?
No, I think John has to decide whether he wants to do it.
But is there an invitation? That's all I meant.
There's always an invitation.
Between prayer and analysis.
I would say revelation. I mean, that's sort of like, you know, on the road to Damascus, all of a sudden you take a right turn as opposed to the way that you were going, which most people, they're in their rut, they're comfortable with how awful their life is, they may complain about it, but to change, God forbid, you know, that's new scary territory.
Yeah, I think that's really right, Molly.
So even if your life is killing you, why change it?
Unless it's killing you.